Well, good morning, everybody. This is Tim here at Surviving Maine on a 20-acre farm. It's 2 degrees out there. It's cold, but there's no wind. It's an absolutely beautiful day if you've got gloves on and stuff, but there's a bite in the air. But we're in here working on the bee, which is a lot more fun than being out in the cold. So anyway, yesterday we got the cylinder off. Today we're going to concentrate on getting this first reduction off. Got to take that brake housing off. And I added up my parts list last night. I haven't found any bushings for the bolt stuff. For some reason they don't list them. Steiner doesn't. This is an odd serial number. It's kind of like before a lot of the stuff and after a lot of the stuff. I don't know. It's just a mongrel son of a gun. But anyway, you know how it is. If they didn't make a lot of tractors those years, people don't tend to make the replacement parts for them. But that's all right. We'll get it figured out if we have to make the bushings ourselves. Anyway, we're gonna get this off. This coming off. We'll pull these cotter pins here, get the brake assembly apart, pull the clutch drive there, and pull this off, get the pulley off, and we'll keep working back. Once we get the pulley out of here, then we got to take this main housing off the first reduction, which I'm kind of curious if this bearing's any good, because these have a tendency to go. I've never had it apart on this tractor. Like I say, this tractor, I bought it, I think I bought this tractor around 95 and 96. Off a guy by the name of Freddie Bruno down in Barker, West Virginia. They called the town Barker, or I don't know if it was actually a town. I think it was a town of Barker, but it may have been a subsidiary of another town. You know, like some of these towns have, you know, a certain falls in a certain areas. I'm not really sure. But they called the area Barker anyway because there was a big compressor station there and it sounded like a dog barking every time it fired. And anyway, but old Freddie Bruno had this and had big steel fenders on it, made out of 3/8 plate steel. Big ugly things. It was all painted yellow and had Bruno painted on the side of the hood. But I bought it for $400 and it was running, you know. So I hauled it back from West Virginia, which was quite a feat in itself. And I got more in it probably in the couple of trips that I made down for it than what it was worth. But anyway, it's been a good tractor for us. And yeah, so we're going to get it apart here. And I'll bring you back here when we get something going. Remember I just said it was yellow? That's how Freddie Bruno had it painted. And you can also see a little bit of yellow here. She was bright yellow. Anyway, 2 3/4 inch wrench, the 1/2 inch bolts. This one down here was a 7/8, had a nut on it. Pull it right out. Got to wiggle it, of course, because they fit a little tight, but anyway, that's sitting over there on the floor. And the other one we'll take out later because I want to actually disassemble them. You know, take this off and it just slides right out and everything comes apart. But this adjustment screw, you know, usually these don't get much maintenance, and I'd just soon take this adjustment screw off and just lubricate the stuff on the inside. That'll be a video in itself, pretty simple. Don't think I'm gonna put shoes on it because the brakes work perfect. No sense to just throw away stuff for the sake of doing it. But anyway, we're gonna take this clutch off. I'm gonna pull these 4 nuts off, these cotter pins out here. And we'll get this off. We'll get this middle hub pulled and we'll see what we can do. So I was gonna film this, and anyway, it came off so damned easy. I was getting it set up. So all I did was use a plate. This is 4 inches apart. I let the back of the plate right here just go against the threaded part. And these, well, I got one of them down here. These 7/16 bolts, they just go right in them slots, one in each side. And put a nut on it, and when that plate pulls up against the end of the crank, it'll pop it off. And it didn't take much effort at all to do it. I was surprised how easy it came off. She's been hot at some time or another. Not really concerned over that. Looks pretty good to me, actually. The splines is what you got to worry about. You know, if those splines have been chewing, then your crank's no good and your drive is no good. But that clutch drive is good, or you know, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, a little gummy, but it don't look too bad. It's probably got close to 16th wore off in it. Not bad. So the two of them together, one on the inside, one on the outside. If I can get this one off, there we go. They wore about the same, almost identical. We'll probably reuse those. They got a lot of life left in them. So anyway, yeah, so, you know, now you're down to the nuts and bolts in there. We'll go ahead and pull this clutch fork assembly off. That comes right out. And I already undid the bar. It's just a couple of pins. And we'll see if that thing will come off. So these four here are 9/16, 3/8 bolts. Let's see there. Not really sure how. Freddie must have drove either lead in there or something. This thing's locked it up solid on that shaft. I'm not really sure what he did. I haven't explored it. It never wiggled and it always was lined up good, so I never touched it. You know the old saying, don't fix it if it isn't broke. There we go. Yeah. Beautiful. That's your throw-out fork for your clutch. Well, it looks good in there. And then your pulley pulls off. So yeah, that looks pretty good. Yeah, I'll see if that first reduction's any good. That ain't bad. A little bit of motion, but not much. What's bad when you reach in there and it just flops back and forth and you know you've got a shot bearing or shot splines, either one. Because there's quite a bit can go wrong in here. I guess that's the same with everything on the tractor. But I gotta get a 3/4 inch socket and we'll start pulling these. Oh, I'm wrong on that. That must be, oh, let's see, try 5/8. Yep. Wow. Boy. It's always fun getting into something for the first time, seeing what you've actually got. I'm going to shut you off while I pull these bolts and save a little time here. Well, I took off this belt guard here, that the seal, it actually keeps the oil in the crankcase, but we're going to take off some of this stuff. Now, I can't remember if there's a snap ring holds that in. I don't believe there is. But we'll see how it comes off. It's looking pretty good so far. Yeah, so I just took this nut off. I used 1 1/16", but I actually think it's 1 inch. And hit it with a piece of wood and it went back. So we're going to bring the bearing with us in the housing, and the shaft will stay behind. And going to have to kind of work it off like that. Let's see here what we can do now. Oh yeah, now it's coming right off. She goes. Coming to it. I wish this damn dowel pin right here would come a little better. There she goes. We gotta come in now. So now I think the only thing's holding us is that shaft. There we go. So far so good. You know, this was tight in the bearing, which I like. Tell you a quick little story about a John Deere B that I bought. I actually didn't, well, I guess I did buy it. It looked like a parade queen. I mean, all painted up like $1 million. And the guy told me it wouldn't start. And this was a long time ago. I was pretty young, like in my 30s. Hadn't really dealt with many shysters in my life. You know, I mean, just, I hadn't. And this guy was the first one that I really, boy, I took it up the ass. There's no other simple way to put it. I traded a nice Hercules on a carriage with a saw rig on it, plus a little bit of money for this John Deere B, because I wanted a nice electric start B so my wife could cultivate, because Carol can't start these. So for, you know, 10 or 15 years till we got the cub out here that's got electric start, I'd leave in the morning when I was working out, and I'd start the B, fill it full of gas, start the B, have it all set to go, and it would sit there for an hour or so while she did her plants and watering and all that. And when she got done watering, she'd go out and get on the B, and she'd cultivate all day. And if she stalled it, when I come home, it would be sitting wherever she stalled it. So it worked out good, but it was kind of a pain, you know, because she couldn't restart it. And so anyway, this guy had this tractor, and I don't remember if it was in Uncle Henry's. This was back before computers you know, as far as I was concerned, you know, we didn't have anything like that. Didn't have cell phones, didn't have any of it. So somehow I got a hold of this guy, or he got a hold of me. I don't remember what the deal was. And I agreed to the trade. I think I gave him $500 plus the engine. And the engine was worth like $1,000. So this was a lot of money back then. And the tractor had good tires on it. That's the only thing it had going for it. And it had a beautiful paint job on it. So the clutch was locked up. He said the clutch is locked up. Well, the reason the clutch was locked up is because he'd locked all the nuts up so that nothing would move. Which I didn't realize that. I got it off his trailer, he loaded and off he went. I put it into shop, and the first thing that I did was I was walking around it, looking it over, and I noticed the hood, the exhaust was a little crooked. And I get looking, and it's got a broken bracket, and he's got wood shoved in around it, holding it. And I'm like, oh shit, this guy saw me coming. So that's the first round. So I took it off. I happened to had another junk tractor down back, had the same bracket. Just talk about luck. So anyway, I got that fixed. I did that right that day. Then I came over into the clutch. Everything in that clutch was wore out. Took the clutch off, went upstairs. Oh no, I take it back. The crankshaft was bad. But I had another, like I say, I had a carcass down back that the cylinders and junk was going on it. But I was able to use the crank and all the parts, the pulley and everything. So I got out of that all right. But while I was changing out the crank, the first reduction was junk and the housing was junk. And the further I went, the carburetor had a crack in it, internal crack, so you couldn't stop it from flooding. Everything on that tractor was stuff that he had, I found out afterwards, he was a wheeler and dealer on John Deere's, and he had taken his boneyard and just taken every piece of crap that he had and put on this chassis. And I mean, the tractor was junk. It was absolutely junk. There wasn't nothing. No, I had to buy a cylinder for that tractor too, because the back skirt was broke out. All stuff you couldn't see from the outside. You know, and that guy had sold me, you know, $200 worth of scrap for basically $1,500. And boy, I took it pretty goddamn hard. And yeah, after I fixed everything, the carburetor, I was just so goddamn aggravated with it. The only thing I had left to fix was the carburetor. And I traded it with somebody for a swing shovel that didn't work. And then I ended up junking the swing shovel. And with the swing shovel, I got my money back. So, you know, on the junking part of it. So I ended up not losing money, but I went through a lot of aggravation for nothing. And, you know, shame on the men that do that. I mean, they say buyer beware. Well, boy, there's certain people that make that so true. And, you know, yeah, so we got a good one here. I don't know if I have to take that for, yeah, I'd say I got to take this first reduction gear off. So I'll go get a puller. I'm just going to put a 3-jaw on it. I'll pop this off. It's on a taper. It don't come off too hard usually. At least they never have. But of course, most of them I ever dealt with, they was frigged up. So anyway, I'll pull that off and I'll be back here in a bit. That main looks real good. There's a whole pile of shims, as you can see right in there. So anyway, I'm going to take all this safety wire off, and we're going to actually see if we can't slide this right off without even loosening up the mains. I don't know if it will or not. There's an oil line on that other side, and there's one similar to that over here. It's in behind it. Well, anyway, we're inside now getting these oil lines off. They're kind of a pain in the butt, but Maybe even turn that crank just a little, you might be able to see better. I think that'll go by hand now. Yep. The whole secret to these is not to bend them. And they'll go right back on slicker than a whistle. That one's got to go the other way. Yeah, of course that one there. The inside's going to turn, so I'm going to get both arms down in there, get a 1/2 inch. And I don't think a 9 will do it. No, it's 1/2 inch. So anyway, I got to hold the inside and see if I can get that off. Okay, I've got both those oil lines off. Now we're going to undo the flywheel bolts, see if we can't get the flywheel off. And we'll work our way in on this side. These flywheel bolts, I haven't taken them out, but I broke them loose. Well, I say I did. Yeah. I had them broke loose with a mallet and doubled up wrench. Because these are usually smoked up as tight as you can pull them, plus a little extra. And a lot of times, if these flywheels don't stay tight, a lot of times it's because somebody's over revving the tractor. If you over rev them, you can stretch them bolts just from the centrifugal force enough that it'll come loose and work. And I know that firsthand because we was traveling on the road with this one day about 6 or 7 miles, and my boy Leland there, he was going right along. I didn't realize he had his foot up on the governor, pushing that governor right full throttle, so he was just letting her run. And when we got there, the flywheel had moved over almost a 1/2 inch. So we had to stop, loosen the flywheel, drive it back on. And I says to him, I says, geez boy, I says, you must have been letting it over rev going down the hill. And he says, well, I was holding the governor open on it. And it's like, okay, now we know what the deal was. So you can't over rev them and cause problems. But anyway, we'll get these 2 bolts out and we'll see how hard this is going to come off. Usually they don't come off too bad, but I've moved this one before, but I've never had it off. I'm going to take both them bolts right out. Set them aside here. Okay, we'll have to get a big screwdriver and tap in there. See if we can't spread it a little bit. I'll be back. Now, as you can see, I got the screwdriver driven in there, and I was prying right here with that bar. And I've got it back quite a ways. Yeah, it's going to come right off. Get rid of that screwdriver. Now, these are fairly heavy, not too bad though. Probably approaching 75, 80 pounds, I don't know. Never weighed one. But anyway, yeah, so we'll take off, it's actually the seal cover. There's a cork gasket in here. I think there's a hollow on the back side, if I recall. Like I say, it's been a long time. But I think the last one of these I had apart, fully apart, was, geez, it was the year me and Carol got married, so it'd be 25 years ago. So, but anyway, you know, I remember enough of it that we can get into trouble. So I'm going to take these off without the camera going, and I'll whistle these outside bolts off. See if I can't get that main bearing to slide right off of there. If I find anything other than just straightforward work, I'll show you what it is. So what this is an oil slinger. You can see that real fine edge right there. Well, I say you can. Let me get the light over here. You'll be able to. Yeah. So that real fine edge in there spins the oil off. And to keep it from coming out under the flywheel, there's a cork in here. This is a tight fit on here. But before you take it off, you got to get this little screw right here out of there. And they're usually not very tight. I'm not sure, I haven't tried this one. No. And this is one of those pieces you could lose awful easy, so I put more stuff right in the platform here that I don't want to lose. I'll dig for it later. But yeah, and then this here should, you can see it wants to move, but the cork has got it held on. So I'll just get a screwdriver on the other side. Of course, that always requires 2 hands. And yeah, we'll slide that right off. See what we can do here. There we go. And you can't pound on it because you'll frig up the edge. And this one here has already been pounded on. So whoever got into it last time, they pounded it with a hammer. And I'm going to drive it back with a piece of wood and do a little wire brushing on this shaft so it'll come off a little easier. So, yeah, it's got some paint on it here. This paint right here ain't going to let it off. So I'm going to clean this up, go get some emery paper, and then I'll get it off. Well, I got it off, and this cork right here, which it's all dried out, very brittle. It's quite thin. You can see it just breaking apart. There we go, we got it moving now. That's what you got to replace in there. With a fresh one, of course, they just go right in, and they're fairly tight to tap on. And when you get it on, you have to make sure that that little notch is going to line up. I didn't mark it, I should have. But you slide it in, it will rotate, although it's quite stiff on here. When you put your flywheel on, there's an actual drive that goes and drives that. And you can see it right there. So between the dowel pin that lines up the flywheel and that pin down there and this piece here, they all have to line up, but we'll show that when we put it back together. So anyway, yeah, we're looking pretty good here. You know, clearances, I mean, it spins real nice, but there's no movement. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna clean this real good so I don't scratch up the Babbitt. And I just scraped it with my knife. I said I was gonna clean it up real good before, but I didn't, I cheated. I just took my knife out and scraped the paint off because there was paint on a couple of them. I'll clean this up real nice. I'll take these, what is that, 4 bolts? Yeah, 4 bolts, that takes that off, and I'll see if I can't slide it right out this way. Anyway, I'll bring it back. Well, I got so excited I forgot to film it, but anyway, it came out through the left side. We kind of have to wiggle it one way and the other. And this one ain't too bad. It's not like an A. An A is quite an arm load, but this here came out pretty good. I got to tap that bearing off or loosen it a little bit. The actual flywheel side came right off nice, but there must be a little bit of a ridge, maybe a little bit of wear out on the outer end. I'll probably loosen these up in a minute. Pick that off, and then we'll take a look at it. I'll get it set up on something there, and we'll do some measuring. So anyway, I was just miking this crank. And it actually is worse than I thought it was. So that right there is 745.5. 5 under over there, 6 under over here. So anyway, it's all over the place. The tape is about 3/4 of a thou from one side to the other, which would explain why the rod bearings were worn on one side. I'm gonna go get me a mic and we'll see what these are. Well, I was going to actually let you read that, but I can't get this thing to focus on it. But anyway, it's 243, 5, 6, 7, 247 is what it's measuring right there. And if you go on the inside there, which you can feel a little bit of a raised area where the bearing didn't wear anything, that's 8.5, which is 0.5 thousandths from the bottom end, because it gives you a 2 thousandths dimension to hit, if you know, when they made it originally. So realistically, it's 1 thousandths worn on it. I don't even think I'm gonna, it appears to be completely round. So I'm not gonna touch the mains. I might polish them a little bit, but I don't think there's any sense. See what the flywheel side says. Yeah, it's only 0.5 thousandths under standard, so. Come on, get on there. Yeah, that one's probably 2 or 3 tenths under standard. So, let's see what the groove in the middle that don't get any wear is. Yeah, there's 1 thousandths worn off in it. That's right in the middle of the number. 48.5, 49, yeah, 49. So, yeah, very, very little minimal wear on the mains. So what we'll do tomorrow, this will be our chore for tomorrow, we'll grind this crank. Be an interesting video. I don't know how many of you have seen a crank ground, but they're pretty simple. All it is an offset head. I got to change my wheel because this is a large radius crank and I got a small radius wheel on. So we'll get this taken care of tomorrow. That'll let us know what bearings to order. Because, you know, if I get down to 10, I'll do the worst one, which is the side on the pulley side. I'll do that one first. And I'll aim for 10. And if it cleans up on 10, I'll know the other side's going to clean up at 10. And because I got an extra thousandths on this side over here. Anyway, pretty happy with that. I got a lot of cleaning to do down in there. I am going to take out the cam. There's a little thrust issue here, and I'm not sure if it's in the bearings or if it's supposed to be there. I don't remember. It seems to me like there's shims that take care of that, but I gotta do some research here. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to take this off. You know, you gotta take out the carrier here for your lifters, tappets, whatever you want to call them. And yeah, pretty simple. Just a few more things. Drop the oil pump out. I'm going to leave the oil filter in it. I have taken them apart and pulled them out, and they're nothing but a pain in the butt. So we'll just leave it alone. Drain it. Take the lines off in it. We can flush it good. Looks to me like at some point, that one right there may have had a little bit of soldering done to it after the fact. This is the factory one, and that one there looks like it's had a little work done to it. So you never know, something like that could have failed in the field. I said I thought it was 65, it was 56 when they rebuilt this. That's what the numbers are. After I said that, I got thinking about it. I said, no, it's 56. But anyway, yeah, that's all we're going to do for a video today. We've got 99% of it apart, and now it's just a matter of washing and getting stuff ready to go back together. I'm not going to do anything with the mains. They're in perfect condition as far as I'm concerned. I'll just polish it, and it'll just take these burrs and this sharp stuff around the edge here. There's about a 0.5 thousandths raised area right out here where it didn't wear, and that's what was holding me up on the main up there. Just that little 0.5 thousandths or so. So this old girl's pretty tight in the mains. I'm going to put it right back together just the way it was. And yeah, she'll be good as new. So anyway, hope you enjoyed. We'll see you on the next one. We'll get this taken care of and get some stuff cleaned, and tomorrow morning we'll be on the crank grinder. Yeah, and don't hesitate to hit the like button and subscribe, guys. Be awful nice to get myself up to 1,000, you know. Just, it's a goal. I'm only 800 and some now. So anyway, if you don't mind hitting that like button and subscribing, you'll get to see the rest of this bee taken apart, put back together, and hopefully it'll run like on a fine oiled sewing machine when we get done. I think it's gonna. Pretty positive about it. We'll see you on the next one.